Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Building Wealth the Halal Way. Thank you for joining us. I'm Nimi Ugui, Regional Branch Head, Northwest United Capital Group. We have engaging, insightful, and informative session lined up for you today, covering key topics related to halal investing, such as Sharia-compliant investments, options, common misconceptions, step-by-step guide for first-time investors, and so much more. Before we begin, a few housekeeping rules. The session is in listen-only mode. Should you have any questions, we will have a Q&A segment later in the session where our speakers can address them. Please submit your questions via the Q&A session located at the bottom of the screen. Or if you are just joining from YouTube Live, please drop your questions via the comment section. Also, please note that this session is being recorded, and the recording will be made available immediately after the webinar. To give a formal welcome on behalf of United Capital Group, I would like to introduce Director, Northern Region, with over 15 years of experience. He oversees the investment activities of the group across 19 northern states. Thank you for joining us, Alhaji Bagudu Mohammed.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Onimiten, for this introduction. Like we said, today we are here to talk about building a wealth in the halal way. I'm going to just do a remarkable remarks on this. First of all, we say it is a profound privilege to welcome you all to today's webinar, Building Wealth the Halal Way, where we're saying whatever we do in life, we will be accountable for it. So how we're growing, how we're taking things, how we're looking at our families, how we're looking at our neighbors is all in a perfect way of Islam and also doing business. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said and emphasized the importance of wealth as a means to fulfill our responsibilities, one, support our families, two, and also contribute to societal growth. What does this mean? Like whatever we're doing, first and foremost, we're thinking of how to grow our wealth, and then we have to think on it on the ethical way, which is going to be the best way as it goes. Also, as the Muslims that we are, and then also we're looking at wealth in Islam is both a trust and a trial. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in one of his hadith that as the son of Adam will not pass away from Allah until he is asked about his wealth, how he earned it and how he spent it in that surah. What do we mean here? Like we said, how you make your wealth grow in the ethical way, how you don't offend other people, how you don't take sides, you just look at it like, yes, this is the best way. And halal means anything that is pure, anything that is being allowed Islamically. That is the meaning of halal. Also, we are looking at the hadith highlights, also to balance and strive, securing our material needs while ensuring that our actions are guided by moral and ethical consideration, like I just said. We're in a situation where anywhere you're living at, you have to look at left and right to balance the people around your corner. And then also the prophetic wisdom reminds us of accountability that comes with wealth. This accountability saying in the hereafter, whatever you do, how you announce your wealth, how you're able to make up your wealth, you will be accountable for it. And that's why we see we always go the halal way, the real way in doing things. Today, as we explore Sharia-compliant investment options, let us remember the Quranic call to build financial stability to ourselves and our families in the halal way. This is what we do in United Capital, and that's what we're trying to take down to our core people in the north, because it goes across the line. In the northern region here, a lot of our clients are always asking us, what do we do? How do we invest our funds? And that's why we're now telling them we do it the best way, the way practices goes in Islam. That is what I think. I urge you, everyone, to actively engage during this session. Ask questions and reflect on how these investment opportunities align with your personal and financial aspirations, so that we will have this sweet free and feel free to ask your question. May this session inspire us all to align our financial strategies with our faith and values, bringing blessings and barakah to our endeavors. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Thank you.
Thank you, Alhaji Bagudu, for setting the ball rolling for our conversation today. Now it's time to meet our panelists. First, we have a portfolio manager, United Capital Wealth Management. He's an experienced B-suite United Capital investment professional and strategist who specializes in private wealth pooled funds and discretionary portfolios. Please help me welcome Mr. Solomon Ogene.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have Samer Sanusi, a strategy analyst, United Capital. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Samer.
Thank you, Nimi. Good morning and hello, everyone.
Now the introductions are done. Mr. Solomon, let's just dive straight into it. Mr. Solomon, Islamic finance is built on principles of fairness, risk sharing, and ethical investing. Can you please break it down to us? Give us a brief overview of what makes an investment Sharia compliant. Address all our common misconceptions. Over to you, Mr. Solomon.
Thank you, Nimi. Good morning, everyone, once again. So I think one of the most frequently asked questions that we receive when it comes to halal and Sharia compliant investments is, what is a Sharia compliant investment, right? So in my opinion, I think there are two major criteria that an investment opportunity must meet for it to be called Sharia compliant. One of those factors is the fact that such an investment must be prejudiced to riba, right, which is interest. So in Islamic finance, the concept of interest is haram, right? So Islamic finance thrives on principles of profit and, of course, loss sharing, right? So number one, such an investment must be prejudiced to riba. Then number two, another important characteristic of a Sharia compliant investment is that such an investment must not be made in businesses or sectors that are considered haram. Such sectors include, the alcoholic sector, the tobacco companies or sectors. You have gambling, weapons dealing, and the likes, right? So while there are other minor considerations, these two major considerations are, very, very important consideration for you to really identify whether an investment is halal or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solomon. Mr. Samer, many people assume that ethical investing means lower returns. How does Islamic investment principle balance financial growth with ethical constraints?
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. I fully agree with your comments that there's a thin line between the conception people believe when it comes to those constraints that exist with Islamic financing. The natural thing to believe is that the return will be very small. One of the constraints I would also highlight, in addition to what someone said, is earnings and paying of interest is prohibited in Islam. That's a major constraint. Another key constraint is that investment in industries like alcoholic industry, the gambling industry, the tobacco industry, the weapon industries are all prohibited. Taking Nigeria as a case study, we have some critical players in these sectors and they're making huge returns. So you'd ask yourself, if Islam is not allowing fund managers to invest in this space, does that mean it will affect the returns on the investment of where Islamic investment principles allows investment to be placed? Now, I would like to make it clear that even while we avoid these sectors I've mentioned, we avoid sectors like the alcoholic sectors, We avoid sectors like the weaponry sectors. We avoid sectors like the tobacco sectors. Islam still allows us to channel our capitals into socially beneficial and sustainable industries. Industries such as renewable energy, industries such as the technology industry, the healthcare industries, and these are all viable industries that have strong growth potentials, and by extension, they are very competitive. They have very huge competitive returns on investment. And again, that speaks to why if there is that conception that you would have a lower return on investment in Islamic finance, it is not a valid conception. Now, to speak further to it, in my closing comment on this your inquiry, I would like to add that even while this ethical constraint exists, a study was made recently by a group of people. These people are all learned people, and they have this. They wanted to provide clarity to that misconception that you normally or naturally have a lower return on Islamic financing. And the findings they made, and that particular studies was done by Department of Finance and Economics in one of the leading universities in the world. Their findings showed that Islamic investment portfolios are as competitive and as the normal conventional portfolio that you have. So that conception that when you are investing through the Islamic way, you'd have a lower return is entirely not accurate, as there are studies that were deliberately done, between more than for 10 years, those studies were done, and the findings show that the return on their portfolio can be as competitive and even more competitive than the conventional portfolio. I think that speaks to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samir. We now know that returns on ethical investments are as competitive as the normal investments. This question is for Solomon. How does UC Iman investment product help investors grow wealth while complying with Islamic finance principle, ensuring capital preservation? A lot of people would want to hear this, because everybody wants their capital to be preserved. And how do you also manage risks?
Thank you, Nimi. A very important question. So first, before I answer the question, I would like to give a brief introduction into the product UC Iman. So UC Iman is United Capital's flagship foreign currency denominated Sharia-compliant investment products, right? That cuts across equities, fixed income, as well as commodities, right? And as I earlier said, these investments are made in Sharia-compliant and Halal industries, right? So to answer your question, of course, as investors, right, every investor wants to ensure that his capital is preserved, right? That is actually the cornerstone of growing your wealth, because of course you cannot grow what you cannot preserve, right? First, right? So that is where the UC Iman product comes in, right? So what we do at United Capital is we open our clients up to a global universe of investment opportunities that are halal and Sharia compliant, right? And one of the things that we do is we ensure that we recommend investments that have capital protection, right? So it's a very important, consideration for us, right? And again, when you look at the Nigerian economy and you look at the fact that the naira has devalued pretty much about 100%, if not more, over the last 3 years, we believe that this product would help investors to hedge their investments, right, against the devaluation of the naira, right? And the return on these investments are quite competitive, right? And at the end of the day, by the time you convert such FCY denominated return to naira, you find out that you are both hedging your portfolio against the valuation and also beating inflation, which I believe every investor aims to achieve, right? So in a nutshell, that is how the UC Iman products can really help our investors to, number one, protect their portfolios against the devaluation of the naira, and also help them earn competitive returns while growing their wealth. Thank you.
Thank you, Solomon. You spoke about hedging against the Naira devaluation, and we all know what's going on with the rising inflation. As of January, it was at 24.5%. We all know also that there's an economic uncertainty. Many Muslims are looking for stable, ethical ways to grow their money. How does UC Iman serve as a hedge against inflation while providing stable, ethical investment opportunities?
Yeah, I want to believe that question is for me, right?
Yes, it's for you, Solomon.
Okay, thank you very much. As earlier said, we highlight that the economy that we live in, at least Nigeria, over the past few years, have actually suffered significantly from the devaluation of the naira, which is worrying, right? And it's something that has gotten a lot of investors thinking, right? And also it got us thinking as well as a business, as an organization. And we had to sit down and go to the drawing board and create a product which we believe will help investors actually hedge, right? Protect their wealth against the devaluation of the naira, so which was why we came up with the product, right? And like I said earlier, the product cuts across equities, fixed income, and commodities, right? And for this product, for the equities bit, with as low as about $1,000, you can actually key into investing, the halal way, right? You don't have to sacrifice your values or your belief system, right, on the altar of returns. And like my colleague earlier said, you can actually earn returns that are as competitive, right, in Sharia-compliant investment, just as other kinds of investments that you have in the market, right? So I think in a nutshell, UC Imran does three things for you as an investor. Number one, he helps you hedge your investments or your wealth against the eroding value of the naira. Number two, it opens you to a global universe of Sharia-compliant investment opportunities. And as a company, we have strategic relationships with, offshore financial institutions, and across different countries, right? Across the Middle East, across Asia and Europe and what have you. And we can actually provide such access to our clients, right? In that you can access any Sharia-compliant instrument or investment in any part of the world. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, that does. Thank you for assuring us that our wealth is preserved. And I also took something away. With as little as 1,000 naira, we can key into this product. It's beautiful. Samir, please. We know about Sukuk mutual funds, and we know it's gaining popularity among investors now. Investors who are seeking ethical and low-risk options. Can you explain how they work, their key benefits, and the types of investors best suited for them?
Yes, thank you. For the Sukuk mutual funds, these are investment vehicles that pull money from multiple investors. So myself, yourself, Mr. Solomon, Alhaji Bagudu, Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, multiple investors. That's where these Sukuk mutual funds pull funds from. And it's now being managed by a professional fund manager, such as United Capital PLC. We have very qualified fund managers that is able to manage these funds that has been pulled together to invest in Sharia-compliant Sukuk. So when these funds are pulled together by multiple investors, a fund manager such as United Capital Fund Manager invests them in Sharia-compliant instruments. Now the funds are backed by tangible assets, which is a key aspect of Sharia-compliant instruments. And it's also very important that the funds comply with Islamic principles. There are no interest attached. There are no uncertainty. There are no speculative activities. There are no involvement in industries such as alcohol, such as weaponry, such as gambling. So the fund manager would not invest in all of these things that are forbidden according to the Islamic principle. Now, a key aspect of this Sukuk mutual fund, again, is that there is a Sharia board that oversees the fund to ensure compliance, and we do that, up to the letter here at United Capital PLC. On the key benefits of Sukuk, one of the first key benefits is that it offers ethical investing because it complies with the Sharia principles, and it also ensures that investment is done in a socially responsible way. So we invest in the healthcare sector, we invest in economic activities that would improve the life of the common man. And that's one of the key benefits of you participating in the Sukuk mutual funds. Another juicy thing to it, it's a very low risk investment because Sukuk are generally considered a low risk. They are backed by tangible assets that are often issued by either government or highly rated corporations. So when you speak to the government part, even here in Nigeria, the Nigerian government has frequently keyed into the Sukuk. There was a Sukuk issuance in 2017. There was another one in 2020. There was even one recently in 2023 to tell you that these are assets that is backed by the full faith of the government if it is issued by the government, or even if it is issued by very highly rated corporate entities. It also offers a very steady returns. I'm very careful about being particular about the returns because Sukuk is based on this profit sharing or rental income, which makes them attractive. So when the government raise money from the public and we invest in such money, any returns the government realize from that is what goes back to the investors, and that's one of the key aspects that Sharia compliance has brought into the Sukuk instrument. Now, on the accessibility, in fact, I could remember back then when I was in secondary school, I started my Sukuk journey with as low as 10,000 naira, and it still exists today. So Sukuk makes it easy. The mutual fund option makes it easy for individuals such as yourself to invest in with as low as 10,000 naira. You can get started. It's so easy that you don't even need to stress yourself walking down to the office in this period of Ramadan. You can just, I'm sure my colleagues would have dropped the link in our chat box. By following that link, you can get started at the moment and have yourself open a Sukuk account with as low as 10,000, multiple of any amount you have the capability to do. If you are on App Store, you can go on App Store to look for Invest Now to get started. If you are on Google Play Store, you can as well go on Google Play Store to also get started. So that speaks to some of the benefits that comes with this Sukuk mutual fund. To speak a little bit on the type of investors that is best suited to. Here I will say it is suited to everyone, the young, the old, the retirees, and I'll tell you why. Now, the first set of people that it is best suited for are those that are looking for ethical and faith-based investment, because Sukuk prioritize Sharia compliance. It's a good option. So if you're looking for an investment options that allows you to also fulfill your faith objective, inshallah, you'd find that with the mutual fund, the Sukuk investment instrument. It also offers a very low risk appetite for people and steady return on investment. So if you're an investor that is looking for a steady return on investment, I would strongly advise you to pick up the United Capital Sukuk Fund. If you are even a retiree and you are listening to us this morning, I would also encourage you to take up this Sukuk mutual fund because it offers you a regular income stream, and we understand that that's one of the key aspects that the retirees often tilt towards too. And beyond just individual investors that I've mentioned, even pension fund managers, corporate entities around endowment funds and the likes, or even other institutions that are seeking ethical and low-risk investment options can also take advantage of the Sukuk mutual fund. So it's open to a quite wide array of people because of the unique combination of ethical investing, the low-risk nature, and this steady returns that comes with this mutual fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Samir, for letting us know that the ethical investing is for everyone. From the young to the old to the retirees, everybody can key into this. And also, thank you for letting us know that we can go to our app, social media apps, and then download this and key into it. Please don't forget the Dropbox below will have the Invest Now app where you can use this to sign into it. In talking about, we know the period we are in. We're in the Ramadan period, and we know what Ramadan encourages. Ramadan encourages reflection, generosity, and financial discipline. Samir, please, how can individuals leverage this period to set long-term financial goals while fulfilling their faith obligations? It's really important because we're talking about building wealth the halal way. So how do they fulfill their faith obligations, particularly zakat, which is charitable giving, and a key pillar of Islam?
Okay, thank you for that question, Onimi. Well, I would say to my Muslim brothers and sisters on this call to consider Ramadan as a time to declutter their financial commitments. If there are some debts we have the capability to pay for or to pay off, now is the time to do that. If there are, excess spending or we also want to cut off, I would strongly encourage our Muslim brothers and sisters to also consider that. And more importantly, if we would like to take up an ethical investment options, I feel Ramadan period is a time that we might want to start doing that. Now, given that zakat payment also applies within this month of Ramadan, our Muslim brothers and sisters should take this time to review their income. Check through your income. How much are you earning? How much are you saving? And how much are you putting into an investment instrument? To even determine whether you are eligible to pay zakat. So as Muslims, zakat eligibility is when your 2.5% of accumulated wealth is above your nisab. So when we mean accumulated wealth, it means the wealth that you've been able to, that an individual owns in possession for more than 1 year, and it exceeds the nisab threshold. So let me take myself for an example now. Am I qualified to pay zakat this year? Well, how I would know is if the savings I have for the last 1 year, 2.5% of that saving is up to the current price of 85 grams of gold. So if I look at the market and I know how much is 85 grams of gold, how much does it cost? And I look at the savings I have or my accumulated wealth over the last 1 year is 2.5% of that above the current price, then it means I am eligible to pay zakat. So if you are also eligible to pay zakat this year, I want to strongly encourage you to take advantage of our automated system. So I speak of the Invest Now application that allows you to start your investment, your ethical investment into the Sukuk mutual fund with as low as 10,000 naira. You can now go extra mile by automating your contribution. You can do it a daily contribution, a weekly contribution, or even a monthly contribution, ensuring that you are already contributing what you want to use to pay your zakat in an investment instrument. What it also does for you is that it allows you to generate more returns before the due date. Now, even beyond allowing you to pay your zakat on the due date, I also want to strongly encourage our listeners to now also build on the habit of continuous investment. We need to be diligent on that. And I feel Ramadan is a good time for us, if we've not started doing it before, to now start, trying to do that from here on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Samir. We've had excellent points from our speakers, Mr. Solomon and Samir. To our listeners, please don't forget to use the Q&A section to send your questions for our speakers. Mr. Solomon, what key factors should a first-time investor consider when choosing a Sharia-compliant investment? Any advice for those starting their investment journey? I want to sign up the halal way. What are the pointers? Give me tips on how I can start as a first-time investor.
Okay, thank you very much, Nimi. I think that's a very, very important question. So I would say two things, right? So as a first-time investor who wants to kickstart his journey to building wealth the halal way, the first thing you need to know is that building wealth the halal way requires patience, right? So it is not a get-rich-quick scheme, right? I think that is very important. So in line with that, it's important to, have a long-term horizon, right? We're looking at building wealth. We're not just looking at, some windfalls, here and there, right? So, and to build wealth the halal way, patience is key. Right. So first, you need to have a long-term horizon. It is very, very important, right? Then number two, right, you need to ensure, right, that you reach out to the right partner, right? So in this case, United Capital here, we have, two, major Sharia-compliant products. On the foreign currency side, we have the UC Iman. On the Naira side, we have the Sukuk, mutual fund, right? And, I can tell you for free, that we've been doing this for a lot of our clients who are, satisfied with that level of service, right? So we are here for you. That is one of the reasons why we're organizing this webinar, to really enlighten people, especially in this season of Ramadan, that you can actually grow your wealth the halal way, and you don't have to sacrifice your faith or your belief, on the altar of return. So to just summarize, my point in a nutshell, there are two major advice that I would give to somebody who wants to start is in journey to building wealth the halal way. Number one, you have to have a long-term investment horizon. So in that, you need to, sit down and do a lot of introspection. What do I want to achieve? Right? What is my risk, tolerance? What's my risk profile? And do a lot of introspection, then you determine what your horizon is. Then number two, you need to seek advice, right? And seek advice from the right partner. And of course, at United Capital, we're a household name, we're a household brand. I've been doing this for, over 60 years. And, we look forward to receiving your calls, your emails, on how, we can guide you on a step-by-step basis, and kickstart your journey to building wealth. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Solomon. We're going to immediately go into the question and answer segment. Don't forget, think long-term. Think building your wealth long-term, sustainability. Let's go into the questions. We have our first question from Ibrahim Yusuf. Is there an opportunity to listen to the recording of the session after now? Definitely, Ibrahim. This session is recorded and is going to be shared to every one of you listening to this webinar immediately after we are done from the webinar. Cedric Hierro has asked a very important question. He says, what's the Islamic perspective on holding on to dollars or other foreign currencies with the intention of converting them to Naira when the exchange rate is favorable as a strategy for building wealth? Is this approach considered halal? And are there any potential risks or considerations that one should be aware of? Mr. Solomon, this question would be answered by Mr. Solomon and also by Mr. Samer. Mr. Samer will talk about the halal part, and Mr. Solomon will take us on the dollar part. He says again, the question again, what's the Islamic perspective on holding on to dollars or other foreign currencies with the intention of converting them to Naira when the exchange rate is favorable as a strategy for building wealth? Mr. Samara will take us on. Is this approach considered halal, and are there any potential risks or considerations that I should be aware of? Mr. Solomon, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I think that's a brilliant question. All right. So I think first, we just talked about building wealth the sustainable way, the halal way, right? And we talked about the fact that it's important to think long term, right? And like I said earlier, that was why we came up with a product that can help investors, to hedge their investment or their investment portfolio against the devaluation of the Naira, right, while helping you to grow wealth. So I believe that if you are thinking long term, right, you wouldn't want to just, convert your dollars back to Naira and back to dollars, right? That is speculation, right? And I don't think that speculation is the best way to build wealth long term, right? So, like I said earlier, we have a wide array of foreign currency denominated investments that you can invest in that will offer you competitive return, right? So the idea behind, having both an FCY denominated Sharia compliant investment product and also a Naira denominated, Sharia compliant product is so that, you can use the FCY denominated product to hedge your overall Naira exposure. So I believe that as investors or as people living in Nigeria, we have very significant Naira exposure, right? And I always often advise people not to, leave their entire investment exposure in Naira, right? You should have some investment in foreign currency, of course, if you can afford to, right? And that investment would help you hedge against the overall, devaluation of the Naira. Right. So, for instance, say you had $1,000, right, invested in UC Iman, say in 2020, right, and then in 2020, the exchange rate was about, I think, 400, thereabout, 400 Naira to a dollar, right, and you keyed into UC Imran and you invested in UC Imran, Sharia-compliant investment under UC Iman, right? And you've earned significant returns between 2020 and now, right? Number one, you've been able to grow your wealth in dollar terms, right? And also, peradventure, you're looking at, okay, what have I done from an inflation standpoint, right? You find out that the return that you've earned in dollar terms, if you convert it to Naira, right, you've seen that you've, beaten inflation and as well the devaluation of the Naira, right? So I just used that to sort of paint a scenario. So I am not, categorically saying that, once you invest in dollar, you convert it back to Naira as an investment strategy. Remember, I said, think long term, right? And that is the only way you can build wealth sustainably. Think long term. I hope that answers it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Solomon. Yes, you answered that. Samira, please, can you take the part where it says, is this halal?
Yes, thank you. I like that my colleague had also touched a bit more on what makes Islamic investment halal or what make it not halal. In our earlier comments, we've clearly also stated it that for an investment to be Sharia compliant, it must be backed by tangible assets or services, and it must comply with Islamic principles. One of the key Islamic principles that we had also highlighted is that there are no speculative activities around how you make the returns on investment, which, my colleague made mention of that as well. There are no interest around it. There are no involvement in prohibited industries such as alcoholic industries, such as weaponry industries, such as even the gambling industries. Now, in all of these terms that we've now linked to the Sharia compliant nature of Islamic investment principles, the one that applies to the question is that speculative activity. Nobody is sure what Naira against dollar will be tomorrow. It's all around the market demand and supply, and that is the speculative part of it, which is not in compliance with what the Islamic investment principle says. Now, one of the key things we also try to make ourselves understand in this conversation is that the world is so easy that you can leverage on the strength of professional fund managers. That's where United Capital comes in. As an investor, you don't want to do all those work by yourself. You don't want to stress yourself to understand whether what you are doing is halal or haram. So you can leverage on a very strong fund manager like United Capital PLC and entrust them with your fund to help you invest them in Sharia compliant instruments so that you can be free of those extra tax. One of the key things you would also be doing for yourself is, even while where our fund managers are doing the thorough work, we also have a Sharia board that oversees everything that this fund does to ensure that it is in line with what Islamic Sharia says. So as an investor, I would strongly encourage you and advise you to leverage on the strength of professional fund managers like United Capital, and be rest assured that your fund would be invested in accordance to what the Islamic principle says, inshallah. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being so spot on, Samir. Mr. Sadiq Yaro, I know that you have gotten the answers to your questions. To your question, now you know that you can leverage on United Capital to make sure your fund is invested the halal way and also hedge against the currency devaluation. Thank you so much. Now we have another question from Mr. Kabiru Abubakar. Please, what is the minimum tenor of investments in the ethical what is the minimum tenure of the investment in ethical investment? Samir, please, can you answer that?
So for ethical investment, we've provided two options over the course of this conversation. There are those that you can invest in using your foreign currency. There are those that you can invest in using our very dear Nigerian naira. So for the naira investment, we have offered the Sukuk mutual funds that allows you to invest with as low as 10,000 naira. It's so easy that it offers you free entry and free exit. Although we encourage investors to stick to a minimum holding period of say 90 days. So what do we mean by a minimum holding period of 90 days? It means that if you are investing today, we strongly encourage investors not to maybe make a redemption from either their principal or their return on investment until after 90 days, so that they allow their funds to work for them for a longer period. But that does not mean that if you have a need for your funds after 30 days, after 60 days, or after any number of days, you would still have access to those funds, as it offers you free entry, free exit. So there are no minimum tenure in that literal sense because of the free exit and the free entry nature. While there are no particular tenure attached to it, we strongly still advise our investors to stick to the minimum holding period of 90 days. And that speaks to the mutual funds of the Sukuk Naira mutual funds. I don't know if that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Samir, for answering the question. We have so many questions coming in. We have one from Mr. Bashir Aremu. What are the type of real assets the mutual fund is investing our money in? He wants to know the type of real assets the mutual fund is investing our money in. Mr. Solomon, please, this question is for you.
Okay, thank you. So I think for the mutual fund, Samir is better suited to it, but I'll just answer the question from the UC Iman point of view. All right. So for UC Iman, in terms of the underlying assets, earlier we talked about the fact that, Sharia-compliant investments are often backed, by assets or backed with assets, right? So first, like I said, we give our client access to the broader global universe of Sharia-compliant investment, right? So one of the things that we do is, upon spotting an investment opportunity, right, we try to find out, initially I said that capital preservation is a top priority, right, for us. So I wouldn't want to go into, capital structure, senior secured, and all other, technical jargon, so I don't bore us, right? So, but we ensure that, whatever company, right, or Sharia-compliant investment that UC Iman vehicle invests in, right, it is such that, in the event of a payout or in the event of, a loss, right, there is a priority, what's it called now? There's a priority payout given to United Capital and United Capital's clients. Right. And I think this is something that is very, very important. Of course, we use our size, right, to negotiate that anytime we are entering into agreement with, these counterparties, right, for Sharia compliant investment. And I think, that this is very, very, important, right? And when I mean in senior secured, it means therefore that, okay, in the event of, say, company folding up, for instance, right, investors that have senior secured assets or investment are usually the first set of people who will be paid from the assets of the business that is being wound down, right? So this just goes, a long way to show you the kind of, due diligence and the kind of structure that we put together, to ensure that, our clients' capital, wealth is preserved, among other things. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, Solomon. Mr. Kabir Abubakar, you can also be rest assured that your investment with United Capital is actually 100% secure. 100% secure. We'll take another question from Uduma Kalu. Can one invest in dollar fund using the Naira, or must one have dollar to be able to invest in the dollar fund? Mr. Solomon, please.
Okay, thank you. By dollar fund, I want to believe that the person who asked the question, means the UC Imran fund. So unfortunately, we do not accept Naira for the UC Imran products, right? So we accept dollars, right? But one of the things that we do is if the investor cannot, access dollars themselves, right? Of course, we have, partners and we have, a lot of relationship with, banking institutions and whatnot, and we can help the client get dollars at a very, competitive, rate. But to answer the question directly, no, we do not accept Naira for the UC Imran investment, unfortunately. However, for the Sukuk mutual fund, of course, that is a Naira denominated investment, and you can invest your Naira in the Sukuk mutual fund. Thank you.
So, Mr. Bashir Aremu, you can invest in the Sukuk mutual funds with the Naira. For the Naira, you can invest in the Sukuk mutual funds. And for the dollars, the UC Imran. Let's move on to Mustafa Ahmed. Please, there's room for Musharraf and Mudaraba system of financing prospective business owners in United Capital. I'll take that question again. Please, is there room for Musharaka and Mudaraka system of financing prospective business owners in United Capital? Samir, please, this question is for you.
Okay, so thank you for that question. In United Capital, we have a fully fledged investment banking unit that can explore that for the prospective person that is asking that question. So it's something that we can explore. Given the necessary information from the client's end, we believe we can come up with a solution that would ensure this client is able to, explore those two options. Now, back to the comment by Solomon earlier regarding the kind of assets that we buy when it comes to the Sukuk mutual funds. I just want to reiterate that when a person invests in Islamic investment instruments such as the mutual funds or Sukuk mutual funds, they are essentially buying a share of an asset. It could be a real estate asset, it could be an infrastructure, it could be an equipment. Essentially, it could also be a revenue generating project, maybe a road project, a power plant project, and the returns to the investors are derived from the profits or from the revenue that is being generated by these underlying assets. I remember vividly, as far back as 2014, the United Kingdom became the first non-Muslim country to also even issue a sukuk. And what they did at the time was to build 3 owned government properties with the money they raised. And it was the rental income that they were generating from those tangible assets that is now being paid back to the investors as returns. The Nigerian government, again, like we mentioned, is very active in this space. And each time the Nigerian government has raised money through Sukuk from the public, what we've seen them consistently do is to fund critical infrastructure projects, particularly road constructions and rehabilitation across the country. This has been consistent the last 3 times even the Nigerian government raised money from Sukuk. So as fund managers, we also now invest in these assets. And that answers, that question by that person, that what do we invest in? We invest in those kind of assets. And anytime a rental income is generated from these underlying assets, that also now by extension goes to the returns back to the respective investors. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samir, for breaking down and letting our viewers know that where their money is being invested. We have a question from Mubarak Maybasira. Is arbitrage in general halal, as in capitalizing on information available to gain from different dollar marketers? Is arbitrage in general halal? Is capitalizing on information available to gain from different dollar marketers? Mr. Solomon, please, can you answer that?
Okay, thank you. I think my colleague Samir actually did justice to the question, but I'm just going to reiterate, some of the things that he said earlier, right? So speculation is, generally frowned at, when it comes to Islamic finance, right? And by arbitrage, there is a thin line between arbitrage based on what you described and, lies the word insider information now. That is if I got what you described correctly, right? Which I think, is frowned at, right? Whether in the Islamic finance world or also in the secular financial system, as well, right? I hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. We'll go ahead with keeping our answers short because we have so many questions coming in. And we have a question from Imam Yusuf. When we are saying long term, can we get a specific time frame? Is there a minimum time frame to which a person should place their time on? Also, when we log into the website, will the information with regards to all this kind of investments be available on the website? Or do we have to always call or email for guidance? You can answer the B part by saying the information on your investment options are available on the website, or you can simply click on the link in the chat box to get started via our app. This question is really long and I'll take it again. Let me just shorten it and then I'll take it again. When we are saying long term, can we get a specific time frame? Is there a minimum time frame to which a person should place their time on? When you go into the app, we have instructions on placements. You can get the general information. Once you log into the app, it's called Invest Now. You can get it on Android and you can get it on the iPhone. We have general information on every product or portfolio you want to sign into. If you want the Sukuk, you have a general information which lets you know if it's 90 days, if it's 30 days, if it's 60 days. Kindly use the link and log into the website and you'll find answers there. We have another question from Olatunji Eletu, which says, what is the minimal investment amount for the UC Iman? Mr. Solomon, please. You've said it before, but just to let him know once again.
Okay, thank you very much. So to just lay a brief background, right, the UC Iman product is, delivered in 3 major asset classes in that sense. Number one, there's the equity part, right? Then 2, there's the fixed income part. Then 3, there is the commodities part, right? So for the equities part, the minimum investment amount is, about $1,000, right, or pounds or euros, right? You can get started, right? But when it comes to the fixed income, bits, then the amount, of course, increases quite a bit to about 200,000. That's dollars or pounds or euros, right? And as well for the commodities investment as well is around 200,000. So the reason why for the commodities bit especially it is that expensive is because there is usually an OTC transaction, right? It's usually an over-the-counter kind of transaction that we enter into on behalf of our clients. So we have partners including the London Metals Exchange, right? Particularly for the commodities side, we do metals, right? So we enter into agreement with a metal producing company, right? And what they do is they take the money and they produce mine metals and they produce the byproduct from the metals. Then whatever profit it is that is made from the venture is then shared between the investor and the exchange, right? And when you look at these products, of course, interfacing with companies that are that reputable, London Metals Exchange, the Saudi Arabia Metals Exchange, you cannot just come with a very small, amount of money, right? So, which is why we peg the minimum investment amount for the commodities, side of UC Iman as well as the fixed income side of UC Iman at $200,000 or pounds or euros. But for the equity part, of course, with as little as $1,000, it can get you started on your wealth building journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Solomon. We'll take our last but not the final question, as we'll also be answering your questions in the chat box below. Muhammad Rabiu wants to know, on the Invest Now platform, I can only see the Sukuk fund. Can the other halal investment options stated in the webinar be accessed through this platform? This question is for Solomon.
Yes, thank you very much. I was actually expecting somebody to ask that question. So for now, we do not have UC Iman on the Invest Now app, but it's something that I think we're working on. Right? But in the meantime, I think before the end of this webinar, we're going to be dropping contact details, phone numbers, emails, and you can actually just write us an email or give us a call. We'll take you through the process. But in no distant time, of course, we'd have UC Iman on the app. Thank you.
Thank you, Solomon. And to also let you know, we will also share the recording immediately after this session, and we will include contact details if you have any other questions. Thank you so much. We're about to wrap up the Q&A. We want to have a final takeaway. Your final thoughts, like what is important? The most important thoughts when starting ethical investment and financial planning, especially during this period, the Ramadan period. Samer, please tell us your final thoughts and what is the most important when thinking of ethical investing and financial planning, especially during this Ramadan period.
Okay, thank you again. Now, given that today is the day 6 of Ramadan, a lot of us have in our prayers before now, over the last 5 days, we have asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us prosperity. I know quite a number of times, in all my iftar period, all my sahur period, I always ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for more prosperity. Are you being able to join this session today to listen to all that has been said? Maybe just your answered prayer, as it has offered you some knowledge or some exposure that you may not have previously known. And I want you to now use this webinar as that activation step that will allow you to take that next step. Ramadan is a month of giving. We are strongly encouraged to give in this month of Ramadan, so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can also reward us abundantly. So why not give yourself that Sukuk investment form? Just take it as a form of appreciation for yourself. Give to your parents, give to your children. Say you have a boy and a girl, you have twins at home. Just look at them. Okay, Hassan Husseina, Taye Kainde, let me buy an investment option for you that is both ethical and halal. You can as well, extend this Sukuk investment instrument to your loved ones, your immediate family, your neighbors, your friends, even your colleague at work. Yes, even your colleague at work. You can extend this to them as gift. Again, the month of Ramadan is a time to give, it's a time to love, it's a time to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for sparing our life, to witness this wonderful month of Ramadan. And we pray to Almighty Allah to make the knowledge that we have shared here today beneficial to ourselves, to our families, to our neighbor, and to the entire Ummah, inshallah. Ameen. Thank you.
Oh, Samer, now I know why you gifted me the Sukuk fund. When you opened it for me, I was wondering why. Now I know. May Allah answer all your prayers. Mr. Solomon, please, your final thoughts.
Okay, thank you very much. So my final thoughts would be this. For you to build wealth sustainably and in the halal way, you need to be patient and have a long-term horizon, right? Like I said earlier, building wealth the halal way is not a get-rich-quick scheme, right? So you need to be patient and, over time, you will see the reward of your labors. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solomon. As they say, tiny drops of water makes a mighty ocean. As we conclude this insightful session, we want to say a big thank you to each and every one of you for joining us today. Our special appreciation goes to our speakers, Alhaji Bagudu Muhammad, Mr. Solomon Ogene, and Mr. Samer Sanusi, for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us. Ramadan is a time of reflection, faith, and giving back. And we hope this webinar has provided valuable knowledge and ethical investment opportunities that align with Islamic finance principles. At United Capital, your #1 investment solution, we remain committed to offering Sharia-compliant investment solutions that enable you to grow your wealth while staying true to your values. We encourage you to reach out to us for further guidance or any questions you may have. Our locations are now shown on the screen. You can see it on the screen. We are available in Abuja, we are available in Kano, and we are available in Kaduna. Or you can also simply send us an email via the email on your screen right now, ucapitalAbuja@unitedcapitalplcgroup.com. You, just the letter U, ucapitalAbuja@unitedcapitalgroup.com. Just in case you've missed any part of this webinar, don't worry, the recording and the contact details will be shared with you shortly. You can also follow us via our social media platforms on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Our page is at United Capital PLC. For Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, it's at United Capital PLC. And on Twitter, former Twitter, now X, you can reach us at United Cap. At United Cap. So for Twitter, at United Cap, for X, at United Cap, and for Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, you can reach us at United Capital PLC. Once again, thank you for being a part of this conversation. My name is Nimi. May this Ramadan period bring you peace, prosperity, and fulfillment. Until next time, Ramadan Kareem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.